modified Cottel's test is used for the assessment of? The answer is nasal valve collapse. Patients who present with nasal obstruction and who have no obvious nasal deviation, who have no allergic features, but they continue to have nasal obstruction and are disturbed by it, the doctor does a modified Cottel's test in which this is open, this is stretched laterally and upward. In this way, the nasal valve gets opened, and if the patient gets relief in obstruction, that means he had a nasal valve collapse. Nasal valves are of two types: external nasal valve and internal nasal valve. External nasal valve is formed by the lower lateral cartilage, lower end of the lower lateral cartilage, the nasal floor, and the outer part, the columella. The internal nasal valve, which is actually tested in Cottel's test, is formed by the anterior end of the inferior turbinate. It is formed by the septum medially, and superiorly it is formed by the lower part of the upper lateral cartilage. So, these are the boundaries of the internal nasal valve. The image shows injection at the medial canthus. So, what is this procedure called? There can be confusion in between NLD syringing and anterior ethmoidal nerve block. Vidian nerve is present in the nasal cavity. It is present in the posterior part of the middle turbinate. It is present at the posterior wall of the maxillary sinus. Proof puncture is done through the nose. It is done through the inferior meatus, and the maxillary antrum is open. So, when we are trying to do FES under local, FES is functional endoscopic sinus surgery. When I am trying to do FES under local, then when we give infiltration over here, it is called as the anterior ethmoidal nerve block. NLD syringing will not be done at the medial canthus, it will be done at the opening of the nasolacrimal duct. All of the following will produce conductive hearing loss except, it is a very easy question and the answer is endolymphatic hydrops, which causes sensory neural hearing loss. Others are causes of conductive hearing loss. You must know, to easily differentiate between conductive hearing loss and sensory neural hearing loss, any losses that are present because of the external auditory canal, pinna or the middle ear, they lead to conductive hearing loss, and the causes that are because of the inner ear, cochlea or the nerve, they cause the sensory neural hearing loss. So, anything ranging from wax in the external auditory canal to stenosis to otomycosis to infection will lead to conductive hearing loss. Tympanic membrane perforation will lead to conductive hearing loss. Ossicular discontinuity or ossicular fixation, both of them will cause conductive hearing loss. Any fluid in the middle ear will lead to conductive hearing loss. Sensory neural hearing losses, the syndromic causes we have already discussed. The other causes are noise induced hearing loss and also ototoxic drugs which lead to sensory neural hearing loss. A 40-year-old male presenting with polypoidal mass in the nose as shown in the image, the most probable diagnosis is, you see this is a strawberry type of an appearance with white dots over it and spores seen. This condition is rhinosporidiosis. This is rhinosporidiosis. Rhinosporidiosis typically presents as a red fleshy mass coming out of the nose, in which multiple white dots, which are the sporangia of the rhinosporidium, they present, and on histopathology multiple sporangia filled structures can be seen. This is caused by the fungus Rhinosporidium seabirei. This is more common in South India or Sri Lanka. Two common conditions that are very often asked in these questions are rhinosporidiosis and rhinoscleroma. Do not get confused between the two. Rhinosporidiosis is caused by fungus Rhinosporidium. As you know, most fungus make spores, so you can remember fungus by spores, and Klebsiella is a bacteria, so rhinoscleroma is a bacterial infection. It is a gram-negative bacillus, and Rhinosporidium belongs to the fungus of the Mesomycetozoa family. Because of the hot and humid climate, fungus grows more. So you can remember that in South India and Sri Lanka, this disease is more common, and in North India, rhinoscleroma is more common. Rhinosporidiosis presents as strawberry appearance, as we already discussed, and rhinoscleroma presents as 3 stages, in which there is a catarrhal stage, there is a granulomatous stage, and there is a fibrotic or a atrophic stage. On histopathology, thick walled sporangia are seen in rhinosporidiosis. In rhinoscleroma, Mikulicz cells and Russell bodies are seen. Treatment of rhinosporidiosis includes excision of the tumor along with cauterization of the base so that it does not regrow. In recurrent cases, amphotericin can be used because it is an antifungal. In rhinoscleroma, streptomycin, tetracycline and rifampicin, they have to be given for long duration up to 2 to 4 weeks. Target sign is seen in, the answer is traumatic CSF rhinorrhea. What is a target sign or a halo sign? When the patient bends and there is blood and around its periphery a halo type of a thing forms, it is called as halo sign, and it is because of CSF rhinorrhea. The clear ring is because of CSF and this target is because of blood. So, it is halo sign or target sign. Other signs and symptoms that are commonly seen in CSF rhinorrhea is the double ring sign, as we have already seen the target sign, the reservoir sign, in which the patient typically presents as when you wait for a certain period of time and then when you bend forward, and it is called as the teapot sign also. When you bend forward, then CSF fluid starts dripping, but it drips after a time, so as if it was filled in a reservoir and then it came forward. Handkerchief test, when you put CSF over a hanky, to differentiate between a normal nasal mucus and CSF, if you collect it in a hanky, in a normal nasal mucus, it tends to stiffen, but in CSF rhinorrhea, it will not stiffen. CSF fluid cannot be sniffed back, but a normal nasal mucus can be sniffed back. When you compare the glucose content of mucus and CSF, you also have to do this blood sugars of that patient, because the glucose in that patient will be more than 30 in the CSF. The most pathognomic or diagnostic test is beta-2 transferrin. It is, if it is present, then it is indicative of CSF fluid, and there is no confusion between nasal mucus and CSF fluid.